This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
You all ready for this? Dun 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 dun.
This is a sham.
No. Y'all, just stop. Welcome to DBL. It's Tuesday, November 2nd. I'm Tori here with Al and Erica. It's good to see you both.
Good to see you as well.
Thank you. All right, let's start with an update on the deadly shooting on set of the Alec Baldwin movie Rust. So the assistant director, Dave Halls, is now breaking his silence over the shooting, saying he was shocked and saddened by the death of Helena Hutchins. Dave's lawyer also insisted that it was not his job to check the gun that he handed to Alec Baldwin. So here's what his lawyer had to say.
Expecting an assistant director to check a firearm is like telling the assistant director to check the camera angle or telling the assistant director to check sound or lighting. That's not the assistant director's job. If he chooses to check the firearm because he wants to make sure that everyone's safe, he can do that, but that's not his responsibility.
What do you guys think? When we looked up assistant director and their roles, and at the very bottom, it did say safety, in charge of safety and holding safety meetings, and at least one person said so far there have been 2 accidental weapons discharged on this set. There have been no explanations, no safety meetings that he would have scheduled. What do you guys think?
Well, it's not surprising that his attorney's speaking out, probably as one of the first attorneys to speak out in someone's defense, although charges haven't been brought against anyone at this point, because his name has been thrown into the mix so many times, not only based on the 2 incidents on this set, which you just named, but also because of past issues that involved him and he seemingly was culpable in. So I could see them trying to, especially on that platform, trying to mount a defense with a demographic that might be a little bit more empathetic to the situation.
Get ahead of the story with that group.
And just quickly, I just don't understand when we talk about safety, that's very opaque to me. And also with safety, you have to have some kind of training. So if in Erica's job description it says safety of fire extinguishers, she has to have been trained on how to check them, make sure. You can't just say, safety. Oh, and the last bullet point on your job description is to take care of the fire. You have to be trained in these ways. So if he was trained, then maybe I'll hear it out. But after just saying he's in charge of overall safety this grandiose concept, I don't know if we can hold somebody's feet to the fire for
Interesting. I do think it's interesting there were no safety meetings. There was also an accidental special effects explosion between takes and no explanation. So interesting update on that. Well, speaking of the shooting on the Rust movie set, take a look at what former Real Housewives star Kelly Dodd and her husband Rick Leventhal dressed up for as Halloween. So she dressed up as a Native American and he went as Alec Baldwin from the Rust movie. Rick defended his costume choice, telling Page 6, quote, "In no way was I trying to offend anyone except Alec Baldwin. He's a jerk and deserves all the heat he's getting." So I would just want to broaden this to those costumes that are a little too soon on Halloween. Are those fair game? Like the Steve Irwin one where the guy had the stingray coming out of his chest. I was like, yo, the year he died. I'm like, is that funny to people or is that off limits?
Yeah, well, look, I'll just say this, not to me. You're legally allowed to do whatever you want, but you have to be ready for the pushback, the consequences, and also be able to sleep at night. If your costume, if as far as your imagination can go, your sense of humor can go, is to make fun of somebody that's recently lost somebody very near to them, somebody that's lost their mom, if that's hilarious to you, you have every right to do it. So if that's okay with you, if you feel like the people around you respect that and you would want to be around people that respect that, then that's on you. I'm not going to stop you.
Well, see, this story to me screams more about the thirst level of this pair than anything else.
So they thirsty. Mile 25. Mile 25.
There is truly someone for everyone. If you are still upset that you did not get asked to return to the Real Housewives of Orange County, just say that. Just say that. We don't need to troll people in hours of, because make note, Alec Baldwin is going to be fine.
Right.
He's going to be okay. Who's not going to be fine is the family of Helena Hutchins.
That's right.
So if this is what you wanted to do in order to get your name out there, congratulations. But I don't think that it's going to get you recast on Real Housewives of Orange County because it just wasn't a really great story arc.
Wow.
At all.
Interesting. Thirsty. Need some water up here. Get it?
I got it.
Okay. Have you ever gotten stiff for work? Thanks, Rob. For work you did. Well, check out what one contractor did to a bathroom he remodeled. He took a sledgehammer to it because of a disagreement about payment. He says he was owed over $4,000 for the work and thought he was getting stiff. The homeowner reportedly claimed she was just not happy with the remodel and was waiting to inspect it further. Now, I've seen the shots that he finished, and you can see grout coming out of it. It's messy. I would have not wanted to fully pay and be okay with that. I would have probably had to have gone to the courts. But a sledgehammer, what do we think here?
I think it looked great. I think it's a good idea, Erica. I think hear me out. I think that we have these things called smash rooms, right?
Yeah.
But they're always kind of like low rent and old beat up stuff.
Yeah.
Why not have a smash room with a brand new bathroom? Did you see how relaxed he was with the sledgehammer? You wouldn't pay $300 to go in there for a half an hour and just tear it up?
I think smash rooms are great, but this is someone's home.
I know. That's the problem. I'm still working. There's still some kinks in my business model.
Right. Right. I understand. First of all, this is a legal issue.
Yes.
Correct.
This needs to be,
courts.
yes, it needs to be decided in a court of law. You cannot walk into someone's home, regardless of the circumstances, and start beating the crap out of their residents. Would she have we're in Colorado, would she have been within her bounds legally to have shot him?
To have stand your ground.
Honestly,
Right.
you are being violent in my home. And also, and being asked to leave. So
his claim is those are my materials. I paid for all of that. That's my property. Therefore, I can destroy it if I want. I don't think that would probably hold up in court, but that's his response.
But I think this is a bigger. We can talk about this all we want, but this is a bigger thing. And Erica, I'm sure you've had work done in your home. I'm sure you have too, Tori. It's a weird situation because you're asking somebody to make something look like you would like it, like you think it looks nice. But that's a very vague kind of personal
But you should see the pictures.
It almost seems like the same thing that would happen with a hairdresser. I don't understand that. So would it be the same conversation if you say, make my hair look like I want it to look?
I think that there is a way, there's taste, and then there's not completing the task that you were asked to complete. And some of this is very subjective. I have hired people, and there have been things that weren't exactly up to the standard that they guaranteed me.
Right.
So the way to rectify that is to call or email that person and say, hey, you know what? I know that you laid this out this way, but it seems to me like my curtains shouldn't look like I rolled around in them in the grass. Can you bring a steamer out and fix it? Or it seems to me like the grout shouldn't be coming out of, can you come in and fix it? Because most people of sound mind are going to want to do that so that their quality of work is something that you will pass on to the next person. Because it's not about, oh, he got it right 1,000,000% the first time. It's about he worked with me until we came to an agreement that the satisfaction was guaranteed on both ends.
100%. And if you do look at the photos, I suggest you look them up. It wasn't okay. He left it messy and unfinished.
But what if you're a contractor dealing with somebody unreasonable? We'll talk in the break, but what if somebody's like, you're like, this is perfect. I measured this out to the specifications.
That's when you go to the courts. Am I right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Knock, knock, who's there at the courts?
That's not fun. I want to hit things with a sledgehammer. That's way faster.
You're not doing it. Coming up on DBL, Matt Franco is the first magician to win America's Got Talent, and we know why. Stick around for the incredible card trick he showed us. But first, Philadelphia bans low violation traffic stops. How this new law will work to combat racial bias in law enforcement.
Closed captioning provided by
dear to my heart, making contracts for things that are what I see emotional, like something that is going to vary from person to person. If you have a contract here at DBL and they're like, you need to talk for a half an hour from 10:30 to 11, 11:30, you can decide whether that was fulfilled or not. But if I just go, Tori, I want you to make my garden look really pretty.
No, I would suggest
that's not how contracts work. When you're dealing with a contractor for your home, there's renderings, there are photos, there's a whole. It's not a subjective just make my bathroom look big or look prettier. It's like, no, this is the specific tile. This is exactly how it should look. There's renderings for things like this. It's not like...
And they did have it up. The tiles were up, but I will say, like, you could see the cement smeared. You could see it on the other paint. You could see open grout. Like, things that would not be acceptable to, like, anyone. It's not like, make it nice and he said I did. This is unacceptable, unfinished work.
But what if you're a contractor and you look, and it does look like the photos that you've laid out, Erica, but somebody like the person that hired you is like, yeah, but I don't like the corner here. I know you can't see it, but can you just
They can go to the
pull
courts
that out?
too, though, Al.
Yeah.
But do you want to do that for every client that you have?
Well, yeah, if you are guaranteeing a certain clientele, of course
Yeah.
you want to do that, because most people get a lot of their work from word of mouth,
That's a good
especially
point.
in a community like that. So it's like, that's so strange to me, because when you have somebody come into your home and perform work, then unless it's something that's so egregious, like they're generally that tit for tat thing doesn't really exist. Like for me, I've told people like, hey, you know, I noticed that there's grout coming out of the side, you know, and now
They
it's
come back and
leaking
work on
on
it.
And then they come back and fix
My
it.
tree
And then I'm
trimmers
like,
didn't trim
thanks,
right.
this is great. And also they don't charge you for it because they want you to be happy with the work. It's
Yeah.
like,
Call them next time.
right.
I've been wanting to get your take on this story. I'm so into this. Welcome back to DBL. So Philadelphia, and if you're from Philly, write us in, is set to become the first major U.S. city to ban traffic stops for minor violations. So let me explain. Police there will no longer pull you over if you have an expired registration sticker or a broken taillight. So this is all in an effort to promote equity after it was revealed that a vast majority of traffic stops targeted minority drivers. In fact, if you look at these pie charts, you can see, despite the city's population being only 36% African American, they made up more than 76% of drivers that were pulled over. It was something like over 90% of the traffic stops were of people of color.
Right.
Thoughts?
Well, this is really no different than stop and frisk. It's just
Very interesting.
vehicular. It would be the difference between like, and these were very minor things, like having a air freshener dangling from your window or
Mirror or whatever.
mirror.
Yeah.
So the difference would be, you and I, Tori, both have that same feature in our car.
Right.
The police officer decides not to stop you, but then maybe decides to stop me.
Right.
Because the idea is, if we can make this stop, and then maybe there's something, is there the smell of marijuana?
Is there probable
That's what it's
cause?
about,
Is there,
yeah.
right, like to check other things that might lead to an arrest.
How many stories have we done where if this law had been in place, we wouldn't have done those stories? You think about Sandra Bland, who basically the officer shot her because she was smoking a cigarette while he was running her plates, and he didn't like that.
No,
Which one?
She was found in her cell afterwards, and we don't really know why.
But why did that escalate? I believe she was the one that was smoking a cigarette in her car while he was running. And the officer.
It was a traffic.
Right, it was a traffic stop. You know, we have so many. Philando Castile
exactly.
comes to mind. And what this also is this is a city. I'm trying to find the word, that is messing with their citizens every single day. And that creates an environment of anger. That creates an environment of enragement. And that's where we get things like Ferguson. What was happening in Ferguson is they were just basically using the black people in their city as money. They were just jaywalking tickets and just tickets for people that are already destitute, just taking their money constantly. And that's why that city literally exploded with anger. Because you take your citizens and you put them in a place where you back them up against the wall to the point where they can't go any further. And things like this will save the citizens. It'll save the cops too. I have a friend of mine, he's one of my best friends, he's Cuban, Miami. He said his brother's a cop. And he said his brother honestly said to him, he was like, when we pull people over, we're scared because people that have 2 or 3 strikes get right back out. So every car I'm walking up to, I'm like, is this guy in the mode of I'm never going back to jail? And this is a young Cuban dude that wants to go home too. So that's why he's like, we're nervous walking. So this hopefully will save some cops, hopefully spare the citizens and just everybody doesn't have to sit and deal with this nonsense anymore about air fresheners, Erica, and license plate issues.
And then the quota for tickets as well. You know, like that has to go away or go down or whatever it is.
Because they're subsidizing it,
Yeah.
Well said, both of you. I was so interested. I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially if you're from Philly. YouTube, DBL app, or dailyblastlive.com. We'll be right back.
Booster shots are all the buzz since the FDA authorized them for COVID-19 vaccine recipients. That's leading to a lot of claims that the need for a booster means the original vaccines were a bust, including a Kaiser Family Foundation survey that found 71% of unvaccinated Americans think it means vaccines aren't working. So let's verify. Are the recommendations for booster shots an indication that a vaccine is ineffective? Our sources are the CDC, the FDA, and Dr. William Schaffner, a professor of preventive medicine at Vanderbilt University Medical Center, who explains vaccines often need booster shots.
It's very common, and each vaccine is a little different.
The effectiveness of vaccines can wane over time. For example, tetanus requires boosters every 10 years to build on the protection from previous shots. Then there are other vaccines that require a re-immunization, like pneumococcal, which the CDC recommends a second dose for people over 65 to remind the immune system how to fight infections.
You wane, and then the vaccine will get you up to where you were before, but not any higher. So we call that re-immunization rather than boost.
There are also vaccines like the flu shot, which the CDC recommends annually because the virus keeps changing. So Schaffner says it's not all that surprising. The COVID-19 vaccine requires a booster too.
More often than not, that's the way vaccines are.
Studies show the effectiveness of the COVID-19 vaccine can drop 10 to 20% over time, depending on the type of vaccine. A booster shot can not only return that level of protection, but offer even more. So it's false that booster shots are an indication that a vaccine is ineffective.
Woo! Welcome back to DBL. Okay, he was the first magician to win America's Got Talent, claiming the $1 million prize and kicking off his very own Las Vegas show, Magic Reinvented Nightly. Matt Franco joined us earlier, and you just won't believe how he blew our minds. It's amazing. Check it out.
Now, you've been performing magic since you were in preschool, which is crazy to me to think that. So we got to know, did you ever have an embarrassing moment on stage, maybe perhaps when you were younger?
Well, I've had them as an adult too, but yes, perhaps the most scarring, I was probably around 11 years old and I was floating a silver ball on stage. And this was in front of the high school auditorium. Of course, I wasn't in high school.
Oh, we have video. Okay.
And, oh boy, there's footage. There you go. And you'll see the ball just cracks in half and hits the stage. Here it comes. There it goes. Zoom out. Dad had to zoom out to show what happened. And then I run back and fix it and make it float again.
But we need those. That's how you perfect your craft.
Yeah,
look at him now. I know.
Matt, I got to tell you, big fan.
Yeah, now nothing throws me off.
Big fan, Matt. I watch you on AGT. Well deserved. But I got to know, being a magician, does learning the secrets behind a trick ruin the magic at all?
That's a good question.
I actually think it makes it better, right? So at first, when you learn the secret to a trick, it could seem like, oh, that's it. But then when you start to think about, well, why does that fool my brain? Even after you know how it's done and you watch it again and it's still, your brain still is sort of fooled by it, that to me is fascinating. So I like getting even deeper into the psychology of how things work. But there are always two types of people watching magic, those that just enjoy it and those that I can see get ticked off. And they're like this.
Funny.
Yeah, well, Matt, your Vegas show incorporates so much audience participation. I've been doing stand-up for 15 years, and I'm scared to talk to the audience because it's so unpredictable. So, like, what's the craziest interaction you've had with an audience member on stage?
Yeah, I love the improvisational elements. I've had lots of crazy things happen. It's crazy to pick just one. I've had someone pass out on stage where I actually caught them before they hit the stage. I think I saved her life. It was a crazy situation. I've had multiple times when I brought, because it's a show for the whole family, and at the end of the show, I bring sometimes younger volunteers on stage, right? And I've had some instances where they can't hold it in and pee their pants.
I've seen that. Yeah.
That's so magical.
I've had people, it's Vegas. It's Vegas. I've had people come up on stage barefoot. I just never know what I'm going to get.
It takes a lot of courage.
That's so scary. All right, so we hear you have a trick for us, Matt. We cannot wait to see it. Show us.
Yeah, I was wondering, have you ever seen one of these? Do you have any idea what this is? I'll let you guys just take some guesses.
Like a jewelry box holder?
Oh, that's a good guess.
You were close when you said box.
I'll
what
say
was that?
for Apple AirPods, yeah. Like the box
Now
inside
zoom in
there.
here so you can see this. Watch this. I'll show you what this is. This is actually a card box, but it's not printed yet until I go like this.
What?
Whoa.
Now that's just the outside. The inside is of course still blank, but watch, if I close up the box, almost like origami, I fold it up and then I snap.
There's not cards in
The
there.
cards actually appear
Stop it.
inside
Serious?
of the box. I will not stop it. This is my job. Now you'll see the cards are actually blank too. This is what they look like before they leave the factory, but you guys will love this. If you look at the deck and you just think of any card that you see,
They're going to be printed.
all I have to do is snap my fingers and it comes back to the top.
Wait, what?
You don't
Because
look
it's all the
impressed.
same. Because it's all the same.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, yes. But if I wanted to print one of the cards,
Right.
if I wanted to print a card, I do that.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it happens kind of quickly. Don't miss it. Watch. All I do is if I wave the hand over, you'll see this is what they look like before they leave the factory. Let's say you're playing a game of poker, and in your hand you have a 5, maybe a 10, maybe a 9, maybe a 4, maybe a 6. Of course, I don't have any of those cards. But if I did, they would actually look like this. But this is a trick card, right? Because there's nothing here, except it's all the way here. Now you have a back without a face and a face without a back. It doesn't make much sense, but if I snap, that makes not just one card, but every card in the deck. Not just the faces, but also the backs.
Matt, you're a full factory. That's insane.
But if there's one thing I want you to remember before we go, it's that this is what cards look like before they leave the factory. So if anybody asks you how that's done, promise me you'll just tell them you have no idea.
What? Matt, do you have a factory for money printing too?
That was amazing, Matt.
I will show you that one next time.
That is amazing.
Yeah, you are incredible. I don't know how you did that. Matt Franco, thank you so much for chatting with us. It has been an absolute pleasure. Matt headlines his own show, Magic Reinvented Nightly, at the Link Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. You can buy tickets online. Thank you so much,
I feel a
Matt.
Vegas
Thank
trip coming
you.
on.
Oh, let's do it.
Yes.
We'll see you
Yes.
backstage.
Thank you all for having me.
We'll see you backstage in Vegas.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
Well, that sound means it's time to verify the thermometer number is dropping almost in cadence with the COVID case count lately. Nationwide and here at home, we're making big strides fighting COVID-19, but health experts have cautioned we are not at the finish line yet. That brings us to a claim by Carol Harris. She said we need a good freeze to kill all these germs. So is it true a freeze or even just cold weather can kill viruses like COVID and the flu? To verify our sources are a research study published in the medical journal PLOS Pathogens and Dr. Chris Uhl, an infectious diseases physician for Atrium Health Wake Forest Baptist. They conclude the claim is false.
Respiratory viruses in particular, they transmit differently because where do they live? They live inside people and they thrive inside people and they transmit from person to person, particularly when we're indoors. So actually, particularly respiratory tract infections go up when it's colder and in the wintertime. And with COVID right now, we're seeing that. The Delta wave has moved up to the northern part of the U.S. And they're having the problem now.
It's the same reason the flu typically peaks in wintertime. In a 2007 research study, scientists used guinea pigs to monitor how they spread respiratory viruses in different temperatures and relative humidity. They found flu spreads much more easily at dry, cold temperatures than warm temperatures with high humidity. One theory is because cool, dry air loosens up the nasal mucus and makes it easier for viral particles to get into the respiratory tract. But this left a big question. Why then do warm and humid climates like that of Florida still have flu seasons? The researchers suggest in these tropical regions, viruses spread more commonly through contact with surfaces rather than through the air. Also, people spend more time indoors to escape the heat. And as Dr. Uhl said, it's easier for respiratory viruses to spread indoors. In conclusion, we verify no, a cold freeze does not kill viruses. In fact, it does the opposite, facilitating its spread. So how did this claim originate? Dr. Uhl thinks it's because hard freezes can kill ticks and mosquitoes, but those illnesses the pests carry are not respiratory and spread through bites instead of aerosol droplets. With your Verify, I'm Megan Malaris.
Don't miss a minute of DBL. I cannot wait.
Nah, girl, we want to know.
You don't feel like that's a little bit weird?
Stop. Get
There's no
away
such thing
from
as
that.
ghosts. I'm talking about.
DBL is always all new every day.
Welcome back to DBL. Have scientists found the fountain of youth? Well, it could be
I'm living proof. Look at me.
Exercise. Two different things. We're chatting about it in DBL's Focus on Fitness presented by QB. So first up is HIIT exercise, short for high intensity interval training. Researchers say it jumpstarts aging cells to create more proteins, especially stopping the process of aging at the cellular level. Next, one study finds that just 6 months of aerobic exercise can help reverse the effect of aging on the brain. And finally, dance. Researchers say dancing may be more effective at turning back the hands of time than other forms of exercise. Staying active is so important. QB has made it easy. Try their under-desk elliptical at home. Call 1-800-556-2089 or visit QB.com to learn more. I did want to give a shout out to Ron Gardner, U.S. Army retired. Thank you for your service. He says when he called cold gun, speaking about David Hall's on the Rust set, that in itself implied he had checked the gun. It's inexcusable. Interesting. DBL's new every day. We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Verify. Are the recommendations for booster shots an indication that a vaccine is ineffective? Our sources are the CDC, the FDA, and Dr. William Schaffner, a professor of preventative medicine at Vanderbilt University Medical Center, who explains vaccines often need booster shots.
It's very common. And each vaccine is a little different.
The effectiveness of vaccines can wane over time. For example, tetanus requires boosters every 10 years to build on the protection from previous shots. Then there are other vaccines that require a re-immunization, like pneumococcal, which the CDC recommends a second dose for people over 65 to remind the immune system how to fight infections.
You wane, and then the vaccine will get you up to where you were before, but not any higher. So we call that re-immunization rather than boost.
There are also vaccines like the flu shot, which the CDC recommends annually because the virus keeps changing. So Schaffner says it's not all that surprising. The COVID-19 vaccine requires a booster too. Studies show the effectiveness of the COVID-19 vaccine can drop 10 to 20% over time, depending on the type of vaccine. A booster shot can not only return that level of protection, but offer even more. So it's false that booster shots are an indication that a vaccine is ineffective. Boosters and revaccinations are actually very common among vaccines, especially those for viruses that continually change. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
Get real.
You all ready for this? Da-na-na-da.